Warm welcome to you all to the Alpha Live stream of the 2019 Teng Tools Shenington SuperPrix. My name's Howard Mitchell. I'm from Double Dash Motorsport Media. It's going to be my absolute pleasure to take you through all of the action in the finals this afternoon at the 2019 running of what is now a stalwart and established jewel in the crown of the UK karting calendar. On track at the moment is one of the heats in the 210s, but what we're about to go into in a moment's time is something very special and somewhat unique, I have to say, to the Shenington SuperPrix, which is the historic karts that you can see lined up behind me. And we're hopefully going to be able to go and look at all of the historic machinery from a range of different time periods within the history of karting. It really is quite fascinating, and hopefully we're going to give you as much insight as possible into some of the amazing machinery that we've got here for you today. Hopefully I'm also going out on the circuit, Tannoy, as well, so hello to anyone around the circuit who can hear me. But we are of course going out live on YouTube and Facebook, and it's about to get rather loud as we walk out ahead of the first of our historic karts going out. So this, a really unique part of the Teng Tools Shenington SuperPrix, and hopefully we are going to get a chance to go out and talk to some of these guys as they're going around. Some absolutely fascinating machinery on show here today, and I'm wondering if now's a... Can I really quickly dive in here? What cart are you driving?
It's a 1986 Gillard kart with a TKM BT82 engine. Same engine used in the Formula TKM classes today. Yeah.
Fantastic stuff. And how does it compare to the modern karts?
It's much different because I've driven Formula A style like that as well. The grip's similar because I'm on the same tyres, but the power is not quite as much as the modern machinery.
Lovely stuff. Have fun out there. Just going to really quickly see if I can dive in here. Who have we got and what are you driving?
Steve Cowell, and it's a 1985 Phoenix, made in Wigan by Jim and Kurt Luby. Not many about.
Lovely stuff. Biggest difference between that and a modern kart?
Not a lot, really.
Have fun. I think I was cutting that a little bit fine. And out go the first set of karts from throughout karting history. The various different ways that a lot of these machines have to be started. I know that somewhere in all of this we've got a 60-year-old kart that needs a kickstart. So it's important to bear in mind these karts are just doing a demo run here, but that still is very much a treat. The racing for the finals, for those who are particularly interested in that, that's going to kick off at 2 p.m. But first we have an hour of this, and I hope we're able to pick it up, the symphony of different noises that we've got here in amongst the historics. Let's see if we can...
I mean, I used to race them back in the day, back in the 70s, But yeah, I joined the BHKC about 10 years ago, but as a driver about 5 years. I've got 3 karts, so, you know, a plan B and a plan C.
Are we going to be seeing you out in those as well, or is this?
No, just this one today, yeah. Yesterday, the one I drove yesterday got banned because it's too noisy. So,
There are some quite noisy ones in amongst the historics, aren't there?
yeah, so I'll have to fit another silencer to that if I'm going to take that out of here next year.
Well, lovely stuff. Thanks very much for bringing it along, and we look forward to seeing it out there.
Be in keeping.
And how long have you been doing historic karting?
Oh, about five years now. But I raced this in 1961 first.
That's fantastic. So you've had it pretty much all this while.
Oh, it went off as a fun kart. It had a Briggs and Stratton bolted on instead. And it was used for 40 years as a fun kart. And then it was going to be scrapped, so I had it back. So I got the kart back for nothing, and we found the old engine, put it all together, and it goes well. But I've been at it quite a long time.
Fantastic stuff. Thank you very much for bringing it, and have fun out there.
I'm not the oldest one here, though.
I'm sure you're not. I know I've spoken to... oh, we've got to go and talk to Roy, haven't we? Thank you very much. Have fun out there. We are going to have to go, because we briefly spoke to Roy yesterday. Here. This is a fantastic thing. Roy's had this thing since new. Hi, Roy. We spoke yesterday briefly, but just for those watching the stream, just tell us very quickly about yourself and the very special piece of machinery you're about to take out there.
Well, primarily it was built in November 1959, so its 60th birthday this November coming. It's been rebuilt, but it's been rebuilt back to original, so all the engine bits now are original, which upsets everybody because it's very reliable, starts on the Kickstarter and does as many laps as they want me to.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing this kickstart you're about to do.
Well, stick around.
But it's a fantastic story. I say you're I hope you don't mind to say you're 82 years young and you're taking this thing out still, having owned it since new.
You have to do it.
Oh, lovely stuff. Well, enjoy yourself out there. We'll be watching.
Thank you.
We did do an interview. When I was 82, so fair play that man. Let's go back. Good spot. So as well as the BHKC, which is the British Historic Kart Club, we also have the Karting Legends Club, who have bought some of their stuff here today. Excuse us, guys. Can we have a quick word about the machinery you're going to be taking out? So this is one of our Karting Legends karts. I have got a camera, by the way. He'll catch up with us in a bit. But so for the people on the stream, tell us a little bit about this piece of machinery.
Okay, well, it's a 1980 Zip Grand Prix produced by Zip Karts. The motor's a Yamaha 250 twin, racing barrels and heads and everything else inside it. The colour scheme is based on a team called Rapid Movements, which came about in February 1980 at Cadwell Park. And this replica is actually designed, the livery is for the O-Plate winner, who was Dave Buttigieg, who was like the team leader. So yeah, that's about it. I fully restored this last year, and it sort of debuted in Kartmania in November. It's ready, it's running, ready to go, so fingers crossed. Yeah.
I find this incredible, and having spoken to some of you guys briefly yesterday, what impressed me is about the stats of this thing. Give us some of the performance stuff about this car.
Depending on the track and on the gearing, long circuit, obviously with longer gearing, the acceleration is slower, but top speed's around 135. On a shorter track like this with the correct gearing, you're probably looking at 0 to 60 in about 2.5, 3 seconds. It's pretty good. G-forces are good as well, so, you know, yeah, very good. Yeah.
I can imagine. How long have you been racing these kind of things?
I've been doing it, I'm 56 now, and I've been doing it since I was 18, so too long.
It's fair to say then this is perhaps one of the fastest things here this weekend.
In all honesty, no. No, they're heavy and they're designed for long circuits, long sweeping bends.
Yeah.
Some of these more nimble, smaller machines will actually be quicker probably, but we're not far off. Not far off. Right, I'll best get going.
Your best, it's getting a bit loud around here. Enjoy it, thank you for bringing it. So as our second run of karts gets ready, it's now getting extremely loud here. But it's an absolute pleasure to see these karts from throughout karting history. A range of karts going out on circuit there, going as far back, some of them, as 1959, if you didn't quite catch what Roy was saying. Absolutely incredible. The kart is 60 years old and still going strong. The driver's 82 and still going strong. Fantastic stuff there. And now some of the karting legend 130 miles per hour a quoted top speed for some of these. So really some very, very impressive machinery from the golden era of superkarts, really. And these are all a very impressive labour of love for these drivers. Excuse us, sir. Do you mind if we have a quick chat about what it is you've got here today? Introduce yourself as well, by all means.
My name's Richard Butler. This is 1982 Cali with originally Class 1, so it would have a normal 100cc kart engine on it, but a few were produced, about 7, to put gearbox on for a championship in Italy. So basically it came all the way from Italy 5 years ago, restored it over the last 2 years, and here it is for its first time out. So we will see.
Absolutely. So this is it coming back out.
After all that time, yeah.
So this has been through a restoration process and a labour of love.
Totally. Complete everything from engine rebuild, chrome, the lot. Powder coating, chassis straightened, and it will go back to Italy, to Jeslo, to the historic kart meeting next year. Yeah.
Fantastic stuff. You've got a lot of superkart stuff around you. It's going to be an interesting getaway.
Oh, it's quick. It's very quick because it's so light.
Sure.
Yeah. I have also got a 250 version of this, which was out yesterday in superkart form, but this is its baby. But it's not slow at all, as you will see.
Oh, we'll be watching it, and it's going to be a pleasure. It's a special moment for you, Richard, so have fun out there. So there we go. So I think that as they're getting ready for another wave of karts here, we can show you some of the stuff taken yesterday when we went to visit the BHKC guys and the Karting Legend guys in the paddock. I'm still here in the BHKC tent because there's so much cool stuff here, to be perfectly honest. I'm here with Roy. This amazing piece of machinery is yours, Roy. Tell us a bit about it.
It was built by a company called Wolverhampton Controls for Aerocart. This one was built in November 1959, and I took delivery of it in January 1960, and it's been with me ever since.
You've competed in this kart yourself?
Oh yes, been out today with it as well.
Fantastic. So tell us. Well, I was going to say where.
I took delivery of it. I was in the Air Force and posted out to Nairobi, East Africa, and still mad keen in motorsport, and the East African Motorsports Club were keen to get karting into the system, like everybody was. And we agreed that we'd all buy the same kart for all the obvious reasons. So this one, courtesy of the Royal Air Force, was flown out to me in Kenya ahead of the other 11. And I raced, rallied, hill climbed it, sprinted it, circuit raced it in East Africa for 3 years. And then development in karting was so dramatic that at the end of the 3 years, I won the East African Championships with it and thought it was worth £1 million. But having paid £47.10 for it originally, courtesy of the Air Force, I created it up and flew it home. And that's the reason why it's back here. And as far as I can tell, nobody else can prove me wrong. It's the oldest and the only one of the Mark 1s that's still around.
Absolutely incredible.
This cart, of course, has got no front brakes.
No.
Yeah, and this is a gearbox cart, and of course, front brakes are mandatory on a gearbox cart, but they weren't in 1959.
It took 3 years to get front brakes, and the gear lever moved to an upright position, and one big rear drum brake on them. And there's a couple of carts here today. Johnny Troughton's is one of them. That's a Mark III, and that's 3 years younger than this one. And that's a dramatic change when you see it next door to it.
And it's 60 years on, it's still running, still going strong, and you're taking it out a couple of times this weekend.
It irritates people that I turn up on the dummy grid and kick-start it into life and get in it and run as many laps as they let me.
Oh, it's fantastic stuff, absolutely fantastic. And Roy, thanks for telling us about it. It's a fantastic stuff, and thank you for bringing it and running it this weekend.
That's part of the enjoyment.
Absolutely, thank you. Here with Tony Brinkworth from the British Historic Kart Club. Tony, he's just been talking us through all these karts, and we absolutely want you to all hear it as well. So Tony, talk us through some of the incredible machinery that you've got here today.
Right, okay. The cart here, it's an American cart, and it's very, very typical of the first few years of karting. So back in the very early 60s, this is exactly what most people would have been using. This happens to be a Class 2 kart, so it's got twin engines. But whether it's a Class 1 with a single engine or Class 2, doesn't really matter. The frame's exactly the same. The frame, it's a dart Roop. Very successful in America, quite successful internationally as well, actually. And you can see the main thing about this cart, you'll see that the seat is right in the middle of the cart. So right on the centre line, and that's where you sit. And the engine is either at the side in this particular case, or both sides, or more usually these engines were behind the seat. The engines, you can see, are still behind the seat, which means that the front part's also quite short. So quite successful, but that's what was happening prior to 1964. 1964, it all changed.
Absolutely, and that's over here, and this is what, before we came on, you were talking about this being one of the, if not the most significant kart produced. So tell us a little bit about this.
Absolutely. Now, I think this is, without question, I think everybody would agree, this is the most significant development in the history of karting. This is a 1964 Techno Caimano Puma, and it's fitted with a Perilla GP15L engine. And what's so important about this is that for the first time, the seat is offset to the left, and the engine is alongside the driver on the right. And you can see now the engine's right out in the airstream. So it means that the fan cooling that you saw on the previous kart has gone. We don't need that anymore. We just use air cooling. That's good for about 3 horsepower that you're wasting winding the fan round. So big difference here, big improvements in performance and a big improvement in handling, because the seat can be mounted further back and the kart would handle a lot better. So this kart was so successful, it's probably about 5 seconds a lap quicker than the 63 karts. It's so successful that 18 out of the 24 finishes in the World Championships were running this setup. Techno with a Perilla GP15L. In 1965, the following year, they won again. In 1966, they won again. The thing about the 66 World Championship, of course, it was won by Susanna Raganelli. She's the only woman ever to have won a World Championship on any 4-wheel vehicle. So very, very significant. So, like I said, my view and many other people's view, the most significant kart you'll ever see, and the most significant engine maker. They, of course, went on to win dozens of World Championships with the Perilla. And a similar engine to this was still going 20 years later. It looks basically exactly the same. There are internal differences, but the layout, they got it right first time.
Absolutely incredible stuff. And we've got some other, you wanted to talk about this one as well, another significant piece of machinery here.
This is a gearbox kart. Now, It's made again by Techno. Very, very rare kart. I think I've only ever seen 2 of them, and this is one of the 2. This kart, it's again Kayamano Puma Class 4 from 1965. So gearbox kart with Bultaco engine. You can see though, the Bultaco engine is now alongside the driver. Prior to that, again, all gearbox karts had the engine behind the driver. And you can imagine with an air-cooled engine behind the driver, you hardly ever got any air to the engine. And they used to get all sorts of reliability problems. Again, the seats further back, the handling was far, far better than anything prior to that. And if you look at all of the Class 4s after this date, they've all got this type of chassis. They don't have space frame chassis, you know, and multi-tube chassis. They have this kind of flat chassis. And the Zip karts, the Zip Martin, and then later the International, they were all based on this kart.
It's incredible stuff. I'm loving this machinery here this weekend. But let's talk a little bit about the club, because its history goes back, well, since 2000, if I understand correctly, and also particularly close ties to this event, the SuperPrix.
Yes, that's exactly right. I mean, it first started back in 2000 when a couple of karters decided to come along and just do a bit of demonstration at the SuperPrix, as you say. And since then in 2006 it started to be much more formalised, and the British Historic Kart Clubs, that's when the British Historic Kart Club started up. And from then on we've been, you know, been looking after really the whole history of historic karting and moving our dates forward as well. I mean, we now cater for all karts up to the year 2000 pretty well. 1997 actually is our cut-off date. But you know, and we have different classes, of course, for the different periods of kart, but pretty well everybody now is catered for. Of course, there's also a parallel club to this, which is Retro Racer, and they look after a race series, which again follows the same structure that we have. So you've got the opportunity of showing your kart like this, you know, and just building up and just bringing it to this kind of event. Or if you're a bit more adventurous, you can also race them as well. And a lot of people do both. I do both, you know. But, yeah.
Absolutely, all kitted up. And what have you been driving this weekend, or what are you going to be driving this weekend?
I've got 3 karts I've been driving. It's these 3 over here, yeah, which we can just talk about if you want to. But there's a Birrell, a Rabadi, and a Buckler kart, and I've been driving those. Been driving those today. Well, one yesterday, another one today. Yep.
Fantastic stuff. And you've talked about some really significant pieces of machinery here in terms of karting history. Is there a particular favourite that you've got?
Well, I think probably my favourite kart at the moment, it's often the one that I've just restored, but my favourite kart at the moment is a kart I restored last year, which is a Rabadi from 1969, which is the one I've got down here. And that is just superb. It's a beautiful piece of engineering, you know. But probably equally would be the Techno. I mean, the Techno it's a marvel of engineering, really, and a marvel of kind of faith in your design. That's the main thing I can say about a Techno. You know, the amount of money that was invested, that they invested, that both Perilla and Techno invested to get where they got to in Italy in 1964. When karting was only 5 years old in Europe, you know, the faith they had. And it set them up, well, for the next 20, 30 years. The Italians just dominated the sport. And quite frankly, you could say they still do, you know. You know, you've got to look. How many Perillas do you see? How many comments, whatever. You know, they're still dominating the sport now.
Tony, it's an incredible collection. The passion is clear to see for everyone. Thank you very much for bringing them, and thank you for talking us through it.
Thank you very much indeed.
Lovely stuff.
Okay.
I'm here with Simon from Karting Legends. Simon, there's some incredible machinery around us here.
Yeah, we're proud of them.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's fantastic stuff. So let's start off by talking just about Karting Legends as a club and tell us a bit about it.
Well, we've been going about 10 years now. We were a breakaway from the BHKC, just the fact that we're doing water-cooled karts and air-cooled. Ours is the long circuit karting history. Basically, anything to do with long circuit karting, that's what we want to do. Some are originals, some are replicas, but it's all about the love of karting. All the members are so proud to show the karts. driving them is a nice part of the pastime, but showing them is our main part of the club. We go to all the historic F1 meetings with HSCC. We go with the Masters Series. We've been to Goodwood very much so in 2012 to honour Martin Hines, who was our patron, who sadly passed away. And that's what the homage of these carts are, zip carts with Martin in mind. He was Mr. Karting. He found the likes of Lewis Hamilton, helped David Coulthard, all top motor racing drivers, Gary Paffett, all these sort of people. He's now DTM driver. Martin helped and found them on the way. It's just, we're all passionate about karts.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about those karts. Tell us a little bit about the machinery that we've got around us here.
Starting back from the orange one, that's Dave Hockey kart, back late 60s, working our way through to the 70s. Late 70s is a supercar era when advertising got into motorsport, and Martin jumped on the bandwagon with the Hermitite kart team, and hence you got the Hermitite Gold, which was the first one, then he went to silver, then you got other companies jumping on board like Rapid Movements, which was sponsored by Singapore Airlines. It was all about showing the press the karting. Then you went on to the later ones in the 90s, which was Anderson's. Then you worked on to other karts through that era. It's all about karting. We just want to show people what it's all about.
Absolutely fantastic stuff. And I mean, you mentioned a whole host of events that you guys go along to, but the Shenington SuperPrix is a big one, isn't it?
It's our favourite meeting. We get to see people we don't see once a year, like gentlemen over there. I see him once a year, but it's all about karts and enjoying to see people. But yeah, the BHKC and the Legends, we share meetings together. The BHKC come on the long circuits with us. We come and do some short circuit meetings with them. Not many of our members wanted to go out there today, but I got roped in and took the gold cart out for a spin. Don't often go out in it.
How was it?
Fast, and my neck's hurting now. Not used to it.
And if I had to push you for a favourite, where would you go with that?
Well, I used to own the silver one, and it is my family's favourite, but I'd say the silver one. The gold one I like, because I like the style of the bodywork, but the silver cart. That was the kart Martin drove at Monaco in 2006. He went to the Monaco kart Grand Prix, and he actually drove that kart around Monaco. So yeah, that's my favourite, but I don't own it anymore. I sold it to one of our members, so I can help him now clean it.
Simon, it's a very special set of machinery.
Proud of being part of the karting history, and Mark Allen, who invites us here each year to Shenington SuperPrix, it's just fantastic to come. We love it.
It's an absolute treat to see them for myself as well. So thank you very much for bringing them, Simon, and thanks for talking to us.
So much.
Thank you.
Enjoy.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome back on our Alpha live stream. We're really sorry for some of the technical issues that we've been experiencing here, but hopefully we're all back up and running again now, and we can take you through the remainder of this historic session. But first, we're going to bring in a man who's rather important to proceedings this weekend. He's the clerk of the course, Mr. Andrew Hornsey. Andrew, hello, and let's talk a little bit about this event, the Techno Shenington SuperPrix. It's a really special event, both on track and off track, isn't it?
Oh, it certainly is, and as an official, it's so good to be able to get yourself involved, not just during the day-to-day running, but after hours with the events going on last night. We could mix with the teams. We had a great time, and it's a chance to get feedback from them and to hear that it's such a good event. It's the biggest kart event of the year. Everyone loves coming to it. There's not really another event out there like it.
Absolutely. I have to say, just going through yesterday and talking to the paddock, this is a really friendly paddock, and people are really passionate to talk about some of the machinery that's here this weekend. It's pretty special.
Oh, it certainly is, and for me to see the karts that I first got involved with when I first started officiating many, many years ago, it's great to see them out there being driven pretty close to the limit, but also to be able to go and talk to the people that are running them, to learn a little bit more about them. I'm certainly nothing technical, but to see what goes into the prep of the karts, and also then for us to give back, to tell the competitors what goes into actually running the event. It's a huge amount of behind the scenes work that goes on. I turn up on the day and I just do it. For the people running this event, there are weeks and weeks of work, and it's absolutely fantastic to see that it's paid off, and everyone that's here this weekend is having a fantastic time.
Absolutely. And just briefly, You say you just turn up on the day, but what's it like to officiate on this event?
It's interesting. It's certainly a lot of work, but in many ways it's no different to any other kart meeting out there. People are coming along. It's a clubman event. They're having a fantastic day at probably the best club in the country, and it's just so much fun. I do it because I love it, and I don't think that anyone else is here for any other reason than that.
I'll second that. Thanks very much for talking to us, Andrew, and have a good afternoon. Andrew Hornsey there, clerk of the course. We've got another wave. So there's a wave of, I think it's about the third wave of historic karts are now out on track, and we've got a fourth or a fifth one now about to go out. We've just spoken to him before he got suited and booted, before we came back on with the stream. But I do, this kart over here from 1964, dated because, well, you can tell its age partially because of where the engine's mounted on it at the rear. I cannot take credit for knowing all of this. This is all stuff that I've had the pleasure of learning over the last over the last day or so from the Karting Legends and the British Historic Kart Club folks here at the Tengtools Shenington SuperPrix. But that is definitely a special one to look out for. Cooling is a challenge with a rear-mounted engine. As they get started up again. Some of these we've had the pleasure of seeing out on track already. I recognise this front one here and the one behind. But we're not going to begrudge them heading out again and giving us another opportunity to have a look at this really fantastic machinery. And after this wave has gone out, we've got some superkart technology I can see behind, ready to go out in the next wave. Don't forget, just to reset for those of you who have maybe just joined us on the stream, we're sorry for the technical difficulties we had, but we're now in the historic demo runs of the day, something quite special. They go through to 2 p.m, at which point the racing will kick off for the finals to decide who is going to take home the spoils in each of the classes that we've got here today. And we've got a whole host of those classes, I have to say. I've actually lost count of how many classes we have here today. So it's going to be a fantastic afternoon's racing. But it's absolutely correct that we give fair time and attention to these incredible bits of machinery. This wave is, we will go and talk to some more drivers towards the back. I'm just conscious of the fact they're waiting for the green flag here. Yeah, we'll watch them head out onto circuit as away they go. Fantastic stuff as another wave of historic karts onto circuit. Excuse us guys, do you mind if we come in here and learn a little bit about the kart? What's your name, and tell us about this amazing piece of machinery you're about to take out there?
Right, well, my name's Ron Ridley. I used to race against this cart many years ago. This gentleman here is the gentleman who's restored it. And I've got to admit, he's done a beautiful job of it, a really nice job. And he was kind enough to give me a ring and ask me to come down and have a drive. So I'm only 72, so I thought, why not? It will go all right, I won't hurt myself.
Have you done much historics before?
I've not done any historics before, but I used to race supercarts for 21 years. And 21 British Grand Prix, so I'm quite used to it, but I haven't even sat in a cart for 22 years. So this is going to be a wake-up call, just a tiny bit.
This is your kart debut for 22 years?
Indeed it is, yeah, so it should be very interesting. But many thanks to Simon for trusting me with it, because it's a beautiful piece of kit.
We spoke to Simon briefly. I'm not sure if we've had a chance to play that interview out yet, but Simon, how are you feeling about Well, have fun and good luck. It's quite the comeback to make onto the karting scene, so have fun. And Simon, just briefly, I know we spoke to you briefly, but tell us just quickly for the stream a little bit about this kart that you've restored.
It's championship winning kart, which Martin Hines and Paul Elmore drove. Paul drove it at the 78 Kart Grand Prix and won it. He was the first man to win the Kart Grand Prix. He's about here somewhere. But yeah, I'm a bit dry-lipped at the minute because Reg Gandrew drove it first. He had a little problem with it, but we think we've cured it. It was pulled a pipe off the pulse pump, so it didn't get fuel properly. So we've got Rapid Ron Ridley taking it out.
We broke it on purpose, so I couldn't have a go.
So we're just intrepid. I'll be happier when it comes back.
I can sense there's happiness that this is going out, but a little bit of stress. We'll remove some of the stress by taking the camera away, but congratulations. It's fantastic that it's still running, and have fun out there.
I've been racing since 1975. I've had this since 1980, raced it until about 1994, put it in the garage and dug it out 3 years ago when I discovered historic karting. And sort of cleaned it up a little bit, but not much. And yeah, it's good fun. Gives it another lease of life.
Fantastic stuff. So just to be clear, this kart is from which area?
This is a 1978 kart, okay, 210 Villiers kart, and they raced competitively to about the mid-80s, late 80s. And then they went on to other classes after that. No, so I resurrected this out of the garage.
What kind of performance do you get out of this?
Oh, it's not too bad. I suppose on a long circuit like Silverstone it would do 100 miles an hour, but here a bit less. Not as fast as the other guys, but yeah, it's good fun.
Lovely stuff. Well, thank you very much for bringing it. Congratulations on restoring it, and have fun out there.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to see if we can...
Yeah.
Fantastic stuff. So a very personal story to yourself behind this one. Tell us a little bit about the mechanics of it and the performance that you can get out of this kart.
Well, I think around here it's probably doing best part of 90 miles an hour. It's a 250 single-cylinder water-cooled Suzuki engine. The engine's actually a 1994 and the chassis is a 1989. But it still goes very well, you know, when you think it's a fairly old kart now. Not compared to some of the others, it's not old, but yeah, goes very well. Yeah.
Is the SuperPrix an event that you frequent with this?
Yeah, I have raced it here before, but not for a long time. Thank you.
I'm going to let you get out. Have fun.